Right now, getting you ready for your holiday travel plans. Your forecast and if you can expect any delays straight ahead.
And cruelty to animals is now a federal crime. What it means for ongoing litigation in the Madison area coming up.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 10.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Millions of Americans are traveling over the next couple of days, and many of them may be dealing with some unwanted weather delays.
Well, for those of us here in Madison, it'll mainly be rain and wind tonight and tomorrow, but things will get a little more treacherous if you go farther north. Almost 500 flights in and out of Denver International Airport. Check it out. Canceled today as the heavy snow fell. This is the same storm that is moving towards the Midwest, likely to impact travel in Wisconsin as well.
Well, let's go right to Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti with our first alert forecast. Gary?
Yeah, that snow's already falling in northern Wisconsin. About the northern half of the state will be seeing accumulating snow, whereas wind and rain, the main problems here, as well as some thunderstorms. Temperatures right now in the upper 30s in Madison. We're actually up a degree in the last hour. To the north, temperatures are still in the mid-30s, where there might still be a mix of rain and snow north of the Dells. But you can see lines of showers, even some thunderstorms moving into southwestern Wisconsin. Some severe weather farther to the south. Tornado watch in effect down by St. Louis. But to our north and west, winter storm warnings are in effect for southern and eastern Minnesota and the northwestern third of Wisconsin, with winter weather advisories to the south of there. Heavy snow of 6 inches or more expected over about the northwestern third of the state, about 3 to 6 inches through the Wausau area, but there'll be some blowing and drifting with strong winds across our area, mainly north and west of the Dells. Will be any accumulations in inch or two. But around here, a wind advisory in effect from 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. tomorrow morning till 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, with high wind warnings to the south. As we look at our forecast overnight, look for rain to gradually mix with snow during the day tomorrow as temperatures fall through the 30s. It'll be very windy with wind gusts over 40 miles per hour. That high of 42 will be early in the day. Later on, I'll take a look at another storm system and will impact us over the weekend.
Gary, thank you. This storm comes as people all over the area are trying to make it to their families for Thanksgiving.
Amy Reed joins us now from the Beltline to show us how it is affecting travel plans. Amy?
Yeah, this is just what you want to see right before Thanksgiving, right? Well, if it's any consolation, we aren't alone in this. Bad weather's getting in the way all over the country. So if you're planning on flying in this, you're going to want to be prepared.
Despite the conditions, the Drain family left.
Oh, it's beautiful, 80 degrees and sunny.
They're happy to be back stateside after 2.5 weeks in Australia, even if forecasted weather for these travelers isn't looking great.
It was -10 when we left and snowing, yeah, so this is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Conditions we saw at Dane County Regional today were pretty good, at least compared to places you could have been. A flight away in Denver, more than 1,000 flyers were stranded overnight Monday due to the weather. Bad enough both United and Delta are willing to allow customers making any kind of stop there to change flights with no additional fee. And as that storm heads this way, people we talked to were happy they're getting in or out ahead of time.
I really was nervous about it when I was looking at it this weekend, and then I saw that it was going to hit us north, so I thought, oh, maybe we can get out before the snow.
Try not to be too jealous. This crew is headed for Texas, where temps are in the 70s.
It's much warmer in Houston, and we're looking forward to that.
But if you're staying here or just got here, it's time to start checking what you're thankful for, whether that's easy travel like it was for the Woods, or what was waiting on the other end of the flight.
It's always awesome. It's home. It's been home for 50 years now, so it's always good to be here no matter what the weather.
In addition to the Denver flight waiver we mentioned, Delta is also offering flight changes if you're going through Minneapolis. That counts if you're flying in, out, or even just stopping through on a layover. So if you're interested in checking that out, check with the airline that you booked through. Back to you.
And as always, if you're away from your TV, be sure to download our Channel 3000 First Alert weather and traffic app for all of the information on the go.
Continuing coverage tonight, Madison police now say they have found 45 bullet casings at the scene of a Sunday night shootout on the east side. They originally estimated there were about 3 dozen. Investigators found one of the stray bullets had entered a sleeping child's bedroom, piercing their stuffed animal shark. No injuries were reported, and still no arrests have been made. New tonight, Michigan lawmakers say if Wisconsin does not want the F-35 jets, they will gladly take them, according to a report From the Detroit Free Press, a bipartisan majority of Michigan's congressional delegation members have signed a letter to the Air Force Secretary urging her to select Selfridge Air National Guard Base, that's about an hour north of Detroit, as one of the locations to host the jet. Some residents on the north side of Madison have expressed concerns about the noise of these new jets.
There will be a special welcome home ceremony this week for about 190 Wisconsin National Guard soldiers after returning from a tour in Afghanistan earlier this month. It will be held at Volk Field starting at 1:45 this Friday. The soldiers are from the Appleton-based Red Arrow 2nd Battalion, 127th Infantry. They have been demobilizing at Fort Bliss in Texas for the past couple of weeks. Another 200 soldiers from the same battalion returned to the U.S. this weekend. Their homecoming ceremony has not yet been planned. The United States is resuming large-scale operations with Kurdish forces against ISIS in northern Syria. A statement by the Combined Joint Task Forces was released saying while recent tensions in northern Syria led to a brief pause in defeat, the coalition remains committed to their relentless pursuit of ISIS. It also confirmed that a mission was conducted last Friday, killing multiple ISIS fighters.
The impeachment proceedings against President Trump are now shifting to the House Judiciary Committee next week. The committee says it will hold its first public impeachment hearing next Wednesday, December 4th. That hearing will focus on the constitutional grounds for presidential impeachment. The move comes after the Intelligence Committee wrapped up a series of public hearings last week. The committee's findings are set to be released after the Thanksgiving recess. A dangerous wildfire burning out of control in the mountains. This is above Santa Barbara, forcing the evacuation of thousands of residents. The Cave Fire burning under some of the toughest firefighting conditions anywhere in the world. That's because there hasn't been a fire in this particular area in 29 years, meaning there's almost 3 decades worth of brush fueling this blaze. Heavy rains are now moving into California. Officials hope the storms will bring an end altogether to the fire season.
About 100 Sun Prairie students walked out of class today and marched to the school district administration building. They're protesting after a fellow student wore blackface to a high school basketball game this weekend. The students from Sun Prairie High School, Cardinal Heights Upper Middle School, and Prairie Phoenix Academy say teachers and staff are not doing enough to stop racism in their schools or educate students on important pieces of the history of racism. It has now been a week since an 18-year-old has gone missing in Beloit. Jeremiah Young was last seen last Tuesday morning when he left for school. His mom said he wanted to walk instead of get a ride, which is unlike him. His mom later called the high school asking if he made it there safely, but he hadn't. If you have any information in this case, you're encouraged to call police. A new law signed by President Trump this week makes intentional acts of cruelty to animals a federal felony. Madeline O'Neill explains what changes the bill brings and how Madison area groups are reacting. Maddie?
Well, every state already has laws criminalizing animal cruelty. Animal welfare activists and law enforcement groups say this could help with prosecution of such crimes. They say it also sends a message. Animals may be loud.
He's very vocal.
But they can't use their voices to advocate for themselves.
Animals are voiceless and are among the most vulnerable of beings. Come here.
Jen Core still hears their desires, loud and clear.
The animals here absolutely have distinct personalities. They truly treasure their lives, just like you and I.
Kors is executive director of the Heartland Farm Sanctuary in Verona, where about a third of the more than 100 animals were cruelty cases.
They're all heartbreaking. Our goal is, for animals not to need sanctuary. She seconds that.
Kors thinks a new federal law is a step forward.
Anytime there's protection for animals, it's a great thing.
The Preventing Animal Cruelty and Torture Act, or PACT, expands upon previous law that banned animal crush videos. With exceptions, including slaughter for food and hunting, the bill makes the underlying acts of cruelty against mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians a crime, including purposely crushing, burning, drowning, or otherwise subjecting them to serious bodily injury.
There's been research that shows there's a connection that if you're violent to an animal, you are very well likely to be violent to a human as well. This is Esther.
Well, Kors would like to see even more protections for farm animals in particular. The new bill sounds like progress.
It's a big win, and it's the first step on a long journey.
Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney tells me he believes this new legislation could help in prosecuting animal abusers who commit crimes across state lines or flee. He's the Associate Vice President of the National Sheriff's Association, which has been advocating for this law change for a while. Now, the penalty for violating this law can include a fine or 7 years in prison.
Maddie, thank you. An elderly woman from Appleton has her neighbor's dog to thank for helping her when she fell. Last Thursday, Bella helped alert her owner, David Bay, that his elderly neighbor had fallen outside. Bay says Bella doesn't usually bark at the back window, but seeing a neighbor in trouble brought out a sixth sense in the dog that called out for help. According to Bay, her neighbor is elderly and has some health issues.
With somebody, in their late 60s, early 70s, being out in 20-degree temperatures for 8+ hours, when my fiance and I would have gotten up for work the next morning, it could have been a very dangerous situation.
His neighbor's doing fine now. She didn't need medical attention after that fall.
An 87-year-old Wisconsin man gets his dying wish. A heartwarming photo that's gone viral on social media shows Norbert Shem having a beer inside a hospital room a day before his death. His grandson tweeted the photo with the caption, "Last night all he wanted was to have one last beer with his sons." Adam Shem told CBS News while he was hesitant to share the moment publicly, it was too real not to share.
In many ways, beautiful moment there.
Still ahead tonight, your full updated forecast and how it could impact your weekend travel plans.
But first, how Dane County says some new plow equipment will help crews clear the roads faster. That story coming up next. Welcome back. There have been dramatically fewer deer killed during the opening weekend of the state's traditional gun deer hunt. The DNR says hunters killed just over 90,000 on Saturday and Sunday. That's down nearly 27% from last year. Wildlife officials are blaming the lateness of the season for that reduced harvest.
The Milwaukee Common Council has approved a ban on single-use plastic straws, but customers can still get them by request. The ordinance passed today on a 13-2 vote and now goes to Mayor Tom Barrett for his signature. The ordinance says that beginning in April of 2020, restaurants and bars will be prohibited from providing plastic straws if a customer does not ask for one. U.S. electricity from renewable sources will soon surpass coal. Coal has been the cornerstone of the power industry for decades. The Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis projects a historic crossover is coming in the next year or two. By 2022, experts predict coal-fired electricity will be replaced by renewable energy sources like solar and wind power.
After a campaign rally tonight in Sunrise, Florida, the president will head to his Mar-a-Lago estate for the Thanksgiving holiday. Earlier today, he and the First Lady took part in the presidential Thanksgiving tradition, granting a full and complete pardon to that turkey right there by the name of Butter. Another turkey named Bread was not in attendance, but both Bread and Butter will live out their days at Gobbler's Rest at Virginia Tech, where last year's turkeys, peas and carrots, still reside. We know Thanksgiving, of course, is about much more than parades and pie, but politics might not be a welcome addition to the table. Psychologist Shyla Mergain says, especially in light of the aggressive language and tone being used on Capitol Hill these days, we might want to be a little proactive to prevent a divisive holiday.
You might consider having Thanksgiving be a political-free zone where you let family members know, hey, you know, I'm going to take a break from politics today, at least during the Thanksgiving meal. There's so much else to talk about. And if you are a family that likes to debate and have these political discussions, best to do it earlier in the day when alcohol is not involved.
Dr. McGain also suggests filling the day with activities so there's no temptation to fill idle time with political talk. We have more strategies from her at channel3000.com.
Dane County is getting new snowplow equipment to help clear the roads faster and keep drivers safer. $2 million in county budget is helping fund tow plows that are able to clear 2 lanes of highway in one single pass. It's relatively new equipment that's used in a handful of places across the state. County Executive Joe Parisi says the need for snowplows has increased with the growing population and additional multi-lane highways.
All right, speaking of that, we're really keeping an eye on the road. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti telling us what's happening.
I don't think the plows will be necessary here. We'll be dealing with rain, wind, and maybe a little mix of rain and snow at the end. But if you're traveling to the north, it's a different story. Take a look at the weather map. This is what a typical fall winter storm looks like. You have heavy snow on the north part in the cold air. You have a mixture in the middle with thunderstorms south of a warm front. Right now, severe weather moving through parts of Missouri. Tornado warnings are in effect in southeastern Missouri. Tornado watch for the St. Louis metro area, and the heavy snow falling to the north and west. And this storm system basically will track just to the west of us. It'll keep us on the warm side of the storm initially, then the counterclockwise wind circulation will switch our winds around to the west and northwest and bring in colder air. So high-resolution Doppler radar, right now we're on the warm side of the storm. It's southerly winds. Even though temperatures don't feel that warm out there, it's certainly warm enough for mainly rain across our viewing area. And then you can see north of Toma and Black River Falls, that's where the changeover to snow is taking place. And it's pretty well a steady snow now through much of northern Wisconsin, through the Twin Cities, and back into western Iowa. Severe weather could be as far north as northern Illinois. Hail and high winds the main threat from any isolated thunderstorms that make it that far north. But across our viewing area, we're going to see mainly rain with maybe a mixture of rain and snow over much of the southern part of the state before it comes to an end. Any accumulating snow will be well north and west of the Dells, maybe northern Juneau and Adams counties. A few more inches out toward La Crosse, and then the heaviest snow of 6 inches or more in a band from southwestern Minnesota into southeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. The heaviest snow probably in this area here, up toward Iron and Ashland counties, maybe into the western UP of Michigan, where lake effect snows will kick in. Winter storm warnings in effect for that area for tonight and tomorrow. Winter weather advisories just to the south of that area, just north of our viewing area, and to just west of Green Bay. Across southern Wisconsin, we have a wind advisory here, a high wind warning to the south. You can see that's for northern Illinois and eastern Iowa. Our wind advisory from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. because future track winds show beginning at 6:30 tomorrow morning. Very strong winds moving in during the morning hours, especially down toward the Illinois state line, where where the land is a little flatter. Could see wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour, maybe some gusts to 60 miles an hour in northern Illinois. That will affect air travel at O'Hare and Midway airports in Chicago. Strong winds continuing into tomorrow night, but then starting to wind down. Then the second storm system that we're watching is for later in the weekend, from Friday after Thanksgiving. So we can see precipitation starting out, maybe a mixture of rain and snow Friday into Friday night, and then changing over to rain on Saturday as the storm takes a little more westerly path, but still the winds out ahead of it warm enough for rain here. Then as the storm tracks just to the north of us, you can see the wind shift around to the north, and on Sunday we change over to some light snow, maybe an inch or two of accumulation, but at a busy travel time with strong winds, that could lead to travel problems as well. Live view from the Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison, seeing some rain here. I haven't seen any thunderstorms in Madison so far tonight, but our high temperature today was at 44 degrees, low temperature 27. So our forecast, wind advisory 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow for all of southern Wisconsin. Showers, maybe even a few thunderstorms tonight. Temperatures rising from the upper 30s to the lower 40s. Then tomorrow the rain mixes with snow before ending, high 42, and then falling temperatures, very windy with wind gusts perhaps as high as 40 miles per hour or stronger. The rain mixes with snow during the day tomorrow. Tomorrow night we start to clear out, low temperatures in the 20s, and then on Thanksgiving, notice the clouds coming back, could see some flurries in the afternoon, highs in the mid-30s, maybe a little freezing drizzle Friday night, and then that next storm system from Friday into Saturday and Sunday. We've got alert days for tomorrow and also for Sunday for travel issues. After that, everybody gets back home and we go to work next week, and look at the weather. Very quiet there.
Of course it happens that way, doesn't it?
Go figure.
Oh, thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gary. Will the Gophers keep Paul Bunyan's axe in Minneapolis for yet another year? We'll hear from their head coach, P.J. Fleck, ahead in sports.
Badger men's basketball team had a rough trip to Brooklyn, a loss to Richmond last night and a loss to New Mexico this afternoon. Badgers down double digits second half, and Nate Reavers does what he can to bring him back. The and one here, Reavers with 16 points, but he fouled out late. Then New Mexico manages to hang on. The Badgers had 14 turnovers. This one is costly as it leads to a basket by Zane Martin. And the final score in Brooklyn is New Mexico 59, Wisconsin 50. Badgers home for Thanksgiving, but then they hit the road again for the Big Ten ACC Challenge a week from tomorrow when they play at NC State. Badger women's basketball team plays Eastern Illinois at the Kohl Center tonight. Super sophomore Imani Lewis, another good night with 15 points. Badgers can't shake the Panthers until the second half, but then Nia Beverly with a sweet hoop here. Final score, Wisconsin 63, Eastern Illinois 55. The Badgers are headed to the Bahamas for a tournament over Thanksgiving. Good news for the Bucks. Chris Middleton, who's missed 2 weeks with a thigh bruise, is expected to play tomorrow night when the Bucks host the Atlanta Hawks. There's a big snowstorm in Minneapolis tonight. There could be another significant snow Friday into Saturday when the Badger football team has its Big Ten West showdown with Minnesota. Minnesota regained Paul Bunyan's axe for the first time in 14 years when the Gophers won in Madison 37-15 a year ago. They paraded that axe around the state of Minnesota like it was the Stanley Cup, but they earned it. Head coach P.J. Fleck says last year's win was great, but it won't mean much Saturday.
But for our team to be able to see that they can do something when we haven't done it for so long, and people saying we won't do it, or seeing lots of people fail at it, I think that was a huge point to say, hey, we can. But again, that's its own entity. But it does not necessarily echo or carry over into this year.
A change at the top of the college football playoff rankings. Ohio State now number 1, LSU 2, Clemson and Georgia still 3 and 4. Minnesota is 8, Penn State 10th, Wisconsin stays 12th, Michigan 13th, Iowa 17th. Next up for the Packers, a trip to the Meadowlands to play the New York Giants Sunday at noon. Last couple of road games have been pretty bad for the Packers. 26-11 loss at the Chargers, then Sunday's 37-8 thumping at San Francisco. Now the Giants aren't very good, they're 2-9, but the way the Packers have been playing on the road, especially last Sunday night, they better regroup and figure it out by this Sunday.
Anytime you get embarrassed like that, you find out what you're made of. And, you know, you find out a lot about people in times of adversity. And I think this will be a good test for our football team. And hopefully we'll become better for it.
And congratulations to DeForest's Mike Minnick, who was today named the WFCA Packers High School Coach of the Year. Minnick led DeForest to the State Division III championship last week as the Norskies made a 2-point conversion with a half-minute left to beat Menasha 8-7. That was Mike Minnick's last game as DeForest's head coach. He retired after 20 seasons leading the Norskies. And we'll be right back.
And Gary's here with a final check.
Well, rain moving through much of southern Wisconsin, even a few thunderstorms. Most of the mixed precipitation is north of the Dells, pretty much where we thought it would be, where temperatures are closer to freezing. Here in Madison, we're at 39, and it's in the 40s to the south, so we'll probably see our temperatures go up a few degrees. Wind advisory, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow. We could see a mix of rain and snow before it ends. Any accumulating snow north and west of the Dells, heaviest snow out toward the Twin Cities and northwestern Wisconsin, or winter storm warnings, rain in effect into tomorrow if you're traveling up to the north.
Well, be safe out there. Thank you, Gary. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 10.
Do something good, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.